Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you are all well. Happy, healthy, well. Yay, that's what we want. Right, I'm sitting amongst a load of clobber today. I'm going to do a job that, I was going to say it's long overdue. It's more that if I didn't do this job it wouldn't matter, but I want to do it because it's a little bit chaotic and it's annoying me. Chaos annoys me. So, right, we'll get into that in a second, because in doing this job, it's going to lead me into talking about Swedish death cleaning and some specifics to do with that, which I hope will be helpful for folk. Where to start? Yeah. So before we start, I just wanted to say I had this really lovely card from Catherine. It's so sweet. Birds and flowers, can you make it out? And it's come all the way from America. Thank you, lovely. Just a simple little card. Very naughty. Now, I think Catherine must have had a holiday in the UK recently, maybe, and had got some British money left over. Put it in the card. Thank you. It's really appreciated. And it's going to go into my sofa fund. I've decided I need a sofa fund. Basically all of the, over the months when people have given me a coffee, occasionally people have said, buy yourself a pint or buy a bottle of wine, something specific. So thank you, I do. But mostly when it's just been gifted, it sits in an account. I haven't touched any of it. And I thought, what a lovely thing to do. Excuse me. I'm still with the remnants of whatever. I thought what a lovely thing to do with that coffee, you know, buy me a coffee stuff, is to get the new sofa when I move into my new place, because then when I'm sitting on it talking to you all, you'll know that you all made it happen. And if it's not enough, obviously I'll put my own money towards it, of course. But yeah, so that's what the coffee money is going towards, a new sofa. Right. And also, just before I get stuck into this, but it kind of comes into this whole subject, there were a few comments in that couple of decluttering videos and maintaining the declutter that came up, and I thought, oh, rats, I forgot. It was something I meant to address in those videos and I forgot, but now is the perfect time to do it too. On the subject of gifting. So I've mentioned this in the past briefly, but I thought it fits perfectly with today, because when we get on to talking about Swedish death cleaning, part of that process is having conversations with your family. And yes, I appreciate that for some people, and when I say family, your family may not be blood relatives, your family may be your friends. You know, family is all sorts to different people, isn't it? For me, family is very much friends. They're my family. But yeah, awkward conversations. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. Oh, our family don't talk about that. Try, plunge in. So this one that came up from those comments, I thought, yeah, it's perfect, is about gifting. Yes, it's lovely to gift to other people and it's lovely to receive gifts, but I think it only works, or should I say generally gifting works best when it's with people who really know each other, really love each other, know each other inside out, because then hopefully when you're giving a gift to someone that you really know and really love, you're not going to be giving them a gift that they don't want. It's that unwanted gift thing, isn't it? You may have relatives, you may have a great aunt who you never see, and every Christmas she buys you a novelty mug. That's how we got onto it in comments, the novelty mug. Please, I do not need another novelty mug. So in terms of ending up with stuff in your home that you don't like and don't want, and yeah, I know it sounds like you're being ungrateful, but the bottom line is, if you can't work in your kitchen because it's covered in novelty mugs, then that gift, it's become a nuisance, hasn't it, frankly? So while we're on the subject of it today, maybe a conversation with family members to say, you know what, let's stop doing the gifts at Christmas, birthdays, what have you. Instead, let's do something instead, like all go out for a meal together. How lovely, all together, eating, celebrating, wonderful. Rather than that we keep exchanging this tat, frankly it's tat, novelty jumper, novelty mug, whatever it is, rather than to keep doing that and keep creating more and more rubbish for landfill, because essentially that's possibly where it's going to end up, that we have the conversation and just say no thank you to gifts. Or if someone really still wants to do the gifting with you, to let them know that, for example, a book token would be really appreciated. Yes, I'd love to have a book token, thank you. And then I can go and have the joy, not just of the book that will be a gift from you, but of actually the experience of going to the shop and choosing that book. Yay! Yeah, I think it's especially true for those relatives that you hardly ever see and that they just don't know you, don't know your lifestyle. Bite the bullet and have the conversation. There may be reluctance to it, you know, there may be reluctance to it. In my family, we don't do gifting, apart from me and my sister, and that's because my sister used to buy me the most perfect gifts and I used to buy her the most perfect gifts. We loved each other's gifts, and they were always spot on, but otherwise, yeah, we don't do gifting, and it just makes life simpler, doesn't it? But I appreciate it. It's a hard conversation to have in some families. Right, so what's all this clobber about, Vivi? Right, this is and there's another little bit here that you can't quite see because it's this is my screws and nail holder. The catch has broken on the top there. It's got a little carry handle. It might need replacing at some point. But yeah, this is all tools and decorating bits, but obviously the small items. So, you know, my power tool and my jigsaw and all that, they're stashed elsewhere. My long saw, things like that are stashed elsewhere. This is the small bits and bobs. This is the stuff that gets in a mess. There's a drawer here. That's in my little set of drawers that go under my counter in the kitchen. This is, again, I was mentioning this in a video recently, this is tools that I keep out, sort of thing, that are close to hand because they're the most likely to be frequently used. So, for example, my multi-headed screwdrivers, these are brilliant because you get this one item out and it's got all the different heads for every job, so it's all in one go. Tape measure, spirit level, pliers, I won't go through everything, spanner, a little bit of wire wool, my sharpening stone for my garden secateurs. I thought my secateurs were in here. Where are my secateurs? I don't know where my secateurs are. A bit of string, which shouldn't be there. I've got a different drawer for string. So that's the kind of stuff I keep to hand, and then all of this is the stuff that's tucked further away. It's less frequent usage. But since giving up the garden, obviously I've emptied the shed and I had some duplicate tools at the shed. So for instance, that multi-headed screwdriver, before I bought a duplicate, I would take that to the garden with me if I was, like, when I was building my fence and deck area, and you know, I'd come home and let's say the next day was raining, so I didn't go to the garden. I think, well, I'll get on with something indoors, and then I'd suddenly think, oh, I've left a screwdriver in the shed. Urgh, so annoying. So it made sense to me because they're not terribly expensive in terms of, you know, it's a long-term investment. It's going to last me forever. I think it's is somewhere in the sort of £10 to £15 region. So I've got two. So they've all come, all the shed stuff, all my bits and bobs from the shed have come home, including, so I'm just going to pop that down there for a second. I've got newspaper with me today as well, because ultimately what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to cover the floor with newspaper, because obviously tools can get a bit grubby. I'm going to get everything out and I'm going to match things up, so where I've got duplicates I can think about donating them. In here, this is a box. I simply keep empty jars, jam jars and bits and pieces. Various sizes, but including smaller ones. I've got them out because I might need them for screws or small bits that I want to kind of keep together. Because what's happened over the years as well is, I can't remember which box it's in, but one of the boxes, I know that I've put screws in there. Sometimes they're in a little poly bag bursts or whatever. So I know that there are loose screws and small bits like wall plugs, that sort of thing. I know they are loose within these boxes. So I've got my jam jars ready so I can put them together. And now it might seem a bit over the top, but then what I'll do with all the loose screws, and this will be a job for the evening, I'll find a film to watch. I'll watch a nice film, and it'll be a nice relaxing job. A tray on my lap, put some newspaper in it, or maybe one of my old tea towels I use for cleaning, just to stop things rolling around. And then all the loose screws I can have on the cloth, and I can sort them a little bit. So I can sort them by length, first of all. I can sort them whether they're, the silver metal, I can't think of the word suddenly, silver metal, what is it, stainless steel, or if they're brass. So give them a sort out while they're in my lap, so they can go into here, because they're generally sorted in here by sort of length, colour, that sort of thing. And that just means that it's like I was saying in that decluttering video about just making life smoother, easier, so you're not flapping looking for stuff. If you've got a 5-minute job and it turns into a half-hour job because you're searching for the right thing, half an hour of your life you've just wasted. The perfect example is, when I was doing the kitchen door plate, the brass kitchen door, the threshold plate, all my brass screws, they're all there together. Obviously I can see all my brass screws straight away, so I can pick the right one. So that kind of sorting will be a bit fiddly and, slightly time consuming. It might take me half an hour or so, but it will be really enjoyable work because it's quiet and small and engrossing. So I'll treat it almost as a little meditation. I will allow myself to be completely in the moment with it. Imagine if you're sorting buttons, if you've got a button box that's got all sorts of buttons in it together, and you decide you're going to sort it, and you've got big buttons, small buttons, blue buttons, mother of pearl buttons, or whatever. It's just those small things sorting and moving and matching. Ooh, I'm getting a sort of a visceral frisson of how that moment is going to feel. I'm not mad, honestly, I'm not. Now the other thing, and I think it's in this one, is because it's sort of in the same category, I'm going to make, what I'm hoping to do, I've got these 3 white storage boxes. They're just cardboard with a slightly reinforced with metal. They were from IKEA. I'm sure loads of you will have them as well. I like them because they're a good size. You can get bulky-ish items in there, but they're very plain and simple. That inoffensive, unoffensive, inoffensive. When they're all stacked, I have them stacked under my DVD screen. They're tidy. They don't grab your eye in any way. They do the job of storage neatly, but they're completely inoffensive. So I might see if I can shrink this down to 2 boxes. It might stay as 3 because I'm thinking one of them might be for sort of cables. I don't have much by way of cables, but I've got, that's an extension lead that I was using under and behind the bed that I'm not using anymore. I've got a European plug adapter thing. Oh gosh, I mean, to get talking about Swedish Death Cleaning. Yeah, a European plug adapter. Now the thing is, I don't know whether I'm ever going to go abroad again. I don't know. I mean, never say never. You know, jump on the train and go to France. I certainly won't be flying anywhere ever again, but it's not taking up too much room, so I thought, well, I might as well keep it. Yeah, it's not taking up too much room. The cabling from my old laptop, I've kept my old laptop for now as a sort of backup. So that's why I need to have a sort out, because this box is an absolute mishmash of things. Sandpaper, wire wool, my extra Dubry, what do you call it, multi-headed screwdriver from the shed. I've got a little tiny tin of white satin. I think that was from doing the little window out there. I mean, it's ridiculously expensive to buy a small tin, but I didn't need much. So even though it would be more economic to buy the big tin, I just didn't need it, and I don't really want to transport that when I move. Bit of filler, my sanding thing, paintbrushes. And yes, this was what I was thinking of, to get rid of my old landline. Now, I read somewhere, let's pop that down as well. Yeah, I think that's the best idea, is I'm going to cover the floor in newspaper. I'm going to finish talking to you. I'm going to do Swedish Death Cleaning in a second. I'll finish talking to you and then I'm just going to spread everything out so I can see where I've got multiples. And the reason it made me think about Swedish Death Cleaning is in here I've got, is it that one? Or is it this one? It's like, ooh, treasure. I'm not getting rid of this, but you know, that's my granddad's old bit and brace. It's just, the action is lovely. In one of them, I've got a couple of boxes and they're full of drill bits, carpentry tools that were my grandfather's, which after he died, my grandma had said to me and my cousin Ben, did we want anything from his shed, from his workshop? Yes, please. So I took a few bits. But there are quite a few of them I've never used in the last 20 years. Is it 20 years since he died? About that. I've not used them in 20 years and I probably never will. I'm not really honouring my grandfather, am I, by just keeping them shoved away in a box, having no life. So I'm going to be really ruthless today, and I will have a couple of bits, and this I've used. Believe it or not, I used this to screw into masonry. The kitchen shelves were put up with this. The living room shelves were done with this. So I'd rather just have 1 or 2 bits that I use and honour my granddad by using them than keeping stuff in a box that never see the light of day again. It's like I've shoved him away and I don't care. And I do care. So I want them to have use. So I'm going to sort them out, and then first of all I'm going to offer them to my cousin because he works in Green Oak. He makes Green Oak barn. He's a barn builder. So he may like to have them. But yeah, I grabbed, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm starting to get into the Swedish bit already. This is my old landline. Now, please do your research. Don't take my word for it, because I saw an article, but it was about 2 years ago. And I don't know what the update on it is, but what I read was that these analog, just plug it into the wall, landline phones are going to be phased out, and everything is going to swap over to digital, and everyone therefore will need to have an internet connection, even to have a landline. Which at the time I read it, I felt a bit furious actually, because I thought people like my great aunt, she didn't have the internet. She had a perfectly good landline, so what we're saying now, she's going to have the internet. I mean, of course, if that was the case, I would put the internet in for her. But yeah, so I'd read that news, and it coincided with, you've seen it, I've got a drug dealer phone. I've got my old burner phone. It's a dumb phone. It doesn't do anything other than calls and texts, and that's all I need. I don't need apps. App this, app that. I don't need it. I need to make calls, I need to receive calls. At the time that I read the news about the landlines, it was right around that time, I got an email from my dumb phone provider to say that my contact had changed, and I was now on unlimited calls and texts, and I don't know, 5 giggle boobies of data, but I don't use data, so it doesn't matter. It's not called giggle boobies, by the way, it's called something else. I didn't care about the data, I don't use it. But the main thing was they said unlimited calls and texts, and I suddenly thought, I only pay £5 a month for my mobile, but I'm paying 20 odd quid a month for my phone, landline. Ditch the landline, just ditch it and just live now with a mobile. So that's what I've done. So I can get rid of this, but I don't know where to get rid of it. Remember the other day I was saying, do your research. I don't know where to get rid of it. But you know, things like if you're working on a show and you're in charge of properties for a show, you might want a phone. There's no need for it to go into landfill. That's what I'm saying. But I need to find out where I can get rid of it. Yeah, there's no point in me paying all of that for a landline when my mobile at 5 quid a month and I get everything I need from it. That's it. That's my total cost per month for phone, 5 quid. Brilliant. So I'm going to try and do an electrics and cables type box, and then a box that's decorating stuff. Yeah, I'm going to keep 3 boxes, I think. A box that's all decorating stuff. That's a dust sheet that's trying to escape. And then a box that's just tools. Is this my just tools? It says tools on the outside. Yeah, okay, so this is the messy box. Look, that's a bag of... I don't know if you can make it out. It's a bag of random screws. There's a couple of bits of hinges in there, hooks. That's come from the shed. The other thing that I'm guilty of is, well, not guilty of, yeah, slightly guilty. And look, you know, I've got my granddad's chisels. Beautiful, beautiful wooden handle. I'm not going to use a chisel. I might keep one. I might end up using a chisel if I might need to chisel into the side of a door frame in order to lay in a hinge. But yeah, it needs really, really, really thorough sort out, a ruthless sort out. I can do all of this without Ruth. Yeah, if I'm not going to use it, it don't matter how sentimental it is, if I'm not going to use it, it's going to be gone. I want to just wash my hands and put some hand cream on, and we're coming on to Swedish Death Cleaning now. Just give me a tick to have a little wash and cream up, and then we'll chat some more. That's better. Clean hands again. Okay, lovelies, let's talk about Swedish Death Cleaning. Now, before I do dive headlong into this subject, apart from tucking my dust sheets away, so annoying me in my eye line, if I don't want anyone to be squeamish, we're going to be talking about death a little bit today. I don't want anyone to be squeamish about that, because we're going to do this in a really positive, celebratory way, I hope. If, however, if you think, I'm not in control of your emotions, only you are, but if you think that this might be too sensitive a subject for you right now, for perhaps a specific reason, please don't watch any further into this video. Tune back in a year's time. Great. I don't want anyone to get upset, and this should not be upsetting But if you have recently experienced a death in your family, then, it might be just you might be a little bit too raw at the moment. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to look after you a bit. That if you think it's too much, don't watch today. Hopefully it's not. So, Swedish Death Cleaning, what's it all about? Did any of you, by the way, watch the programme I mentioned the other day, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, on the channel called U and W? It's a free view channel in the UK. Just go on your computer, U and W, and then look up Swedish Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, and it'll bring it up. And I thought it was a beautifully made programme. The three Swedes, one a psychologist, one an organiser, and one a designer, coming into people's homes and helping them to do their own death cleaning. Well worth a watch, and I'd say watch a few, because the individuals that they go into the homes of are so different, and it shows how you can apply this to anyone really, in any circumstance. And every single one of those individuals really got so much from it. So what's it all about? Yes, it is about death to a degree, but it's also about sort of thinking ahead and preparing for death. And again, not in a morbid way, getting all your ducks in a row so that you can just live freely right now. If everything's in order for further down the line, you can get on with living today and living as well as you possibly can. That's so much of what it's about. It's about getting things right so that today is good for you. Part of that is looking ahead at what is going to happen to your life, your physical life, your clobber, etc., your money. What's going to happen after your death? Let's get it organised now so that everybody knows where they stand and no one is left with a nightmare to deal with. So, starting with the basics, a will. Have you written a will? Almost certainly most of you have, because I know most of you are my age or older. Is your will up to date? So that's a really important one as well, is any life changes that you've had, any life changes really which affect any part of your will, you should update. So for instance, that's why I updated my will, because originally I'd left everything to my sister and to some charities and one friend. So of course now my sister is no longer here. I've had to change my will to make it clear what I want to happen to my money. And when I say money, I mean the value of my property and any bits and bobs that anything of value I leave behind. So yes, make sure your will is up to date. People who are divorced, make sure you've changed your will. If you want to, you might still want to leave your ex something. You might be on good terms. A misconception, certainly in the UK and probably in other parts of the world, is this idea of a common law husband or a common law wife. There is no such thing in law as a husband or wife that's anything other than an officially, legally married partner. So for instance, I mean, I've got quite a few friends who they're not married. They've been together 25, 30, 35 years. They have kids together. They have grandchildren together, but they're not married. And so in the event of, say, the woman dying, her life partner, the man, he is not entitled to anything after her death. It would all go to the kids, unless she puts it in her will that she wants him to have the residue of her estate. So don't make any assumptions that, well, I haven't got a will, but when I die, you might not have kids. You might be in a long-term partnership of 40 years, you've got no kids, and you haven't done a will because you just assume that on your death, everything will go to your life partner. No, it won't. You'll die intestate without a will, and it will go probably to your nearest blood relative, and it might be it might be a brother you haven't spoken to for 40 years because they hate each other's guts. He's going to get everything. So obviously your life partner could contest it, but what a nightmare to leave. And that's what this is all about. Don't leave a nightmare for the living to sort out once you've popped your clogs. So yeah, don't assume that just because you've been in a partnership for 40 years that they'll get everything on your death. They won't unless you put it into your will. So make sure your will is very specific. It doesn't have to be specific about items. You might be leaving everything to one person, in which case it's a very simple will, but it's about making sure they are named and it's clear that that's where you want the majority or the residue of your estate to go on your death. Just on a note, I have to look at this because I looked this up quickly last night on the subject of wills. In the UK, there are certain months in the year when you can get a free will made. It's not quite free. You're asked to make a donation. So we have Free Wills Month in March and October. If you go online and just look up, I don't know what it's like around the rest of the world, I'm sorry, but if you go online in the UK and if you just put in the words Free Wills Month, it'll bring the information up and it'll tell you how you can go about applying. Now these are for very simple wills. So obviously, my will is very simple. It's just the estate, that's it. So it's the combination of property. I mean, for most of us, property is going to be the big one, isn't it? That's the most expensive thing we'll leave. But yeah, you can get free wills done March and October, but also in November. So we're right at the end of November. Probably all these spaces have been booked, but you might be able to book them for next year. Something called Will Aid. And that again is to do with charities. Again, the solicitor will prepare the will for you for free, but you're asked to make a donation, usually £100 minimum, to a designated charity. Or the other option is you can go direct to some charities. There's a whole number of charities. I didn't write them down actually because there were quite a few, but Macmillan cancer nurses, I think Cancer Research do it, all sorts of different charities. They will do your will for you for free in exchange for a bit of legacy. In other words, in your will, you state that you're leaving X amount to a charity. I think I saw somewhere someone mentioning that at least £500 is what they would like you to leave in your will as a legacy to that charity, and they'll write the will for you for free. Now, I've got 4 named charities in my will, and they'll get more than 500 each because they're going to get a percentage of my estate. However, when I needed to change my will, there was no free will writing going on, so I paid for it. But that's okay. It was more important to just make sure it was up to date and done. So yeah, make sure your will is up to date in terms of the people that you've named in it. And if, for instance, if there are particular items, for instance, you might have a piece of jewellery, you might have your own diamond engagement ring and you want it to go specifically to your niece, for example, get that in the will as well. But yeah, the big one is for those of you who are in a common law relationship. There's no such thing as a common law relationship. Make sure you name your partner in your will. Good. Okay, so that's wills. But also the other thing in that kind of bracket of... the other thing I thought about, sorry, just quickly, and this is something I need to look into. We all hope we're going to die in our 80s, 90s as little old ladies. Why is it always a little old lady? I'm going to be a big old lady. A big, loud old lady. It's going to be, when I'm in my nursing home, my room's going to be the party room. Come on, Ethel. You see, I've said it, Ethel is an old lady name, isn't it? None of my generation are called Ethel. Anyway, yeah, the other thing to think about is, as much as I hope that I will be in my 80s or 90s when, you know, when my battery finally runs out forever, it could be tomorrow. I mean, God forbid it's tomorrow. It could be tomorrow, which is why it doesn't matter how old or young you are, why you need to get your will sorted. Something we all need to think about, probably a lot of us anyway, is what happens to our social media after our death. So, can my executors, I mean, I will, you know, things like making sure you leave behind passwords so people can access. Okay, I'm going to park social media for a second. Power of attorney. There are 2 different powers of attorney. There's one for your finances and business affairs, if you like, and there's one for health. Let's put the health one aside for a second. The financial power of attorney. Whoever's going to be my executor, I'm going to make them my power of attorney as well. And it's what I was for Auntie Teapot. And it just meant that after her death, it was so much easier for me to handle things because I already had access to her bank accounts, to all her bills and all of that sort of stuff. So I could wrap everything up relatively easily. Things like passwords, because we all do so much online now, don't we? Is your loved one going to have a nightmare trying to access your online life, bank account, savings account, bills, whatever it is, Instagram account, your Facebook account? Are they going to be able to access it after your death in order to close it down? Perhaps if you have a social media presence, coming back to this, and this is why I need to be clear with my power of attorney, who I haven't nominated. I know who I want it to be. I haven't actually done that paperwork yet. Too busy with the house move. Get the house move done and then I'll sort my power of attorney out. It may be that you have a social media presence which generates an income, as mine does. And it might be that, and this would be especially true if you know, if I was to die in the next 12 months, it'd be a shame for all those gardening videos and all the useful hints and tips videos to just disappear forever. It might be nice for them to stay around for another 10 years, and then someone looking on the internet for, you know, how to unblock their kitchen sink, they can see my video that I made 6-7 years ago, or it would be 20 years ago. You know, I'd be long since dead, but that video would still be there and it would still have an income attached to it. And therefore, that's this new aspect of life that we have to think about in our will as well. Who benefits from our social media after our death, and how are they going to be? Are they then therefore going to be put in charge of your social media platform? Do you want them to have unfettered access to it after your death? Do you want it all to close down? What do you want to happen to your social media after death? It's not something that I've heard talked about much in terms of wills and stuff and that aspect of life, but I think it's something that we are going to increasingly have to think about, especially, as I say, because there's money attached in so many instances now. But yeah, on a purely practical matter, do they have your passwords? How are they going to access it to close it if you want it all closed? Okay, so that's kind of all the will stuff. Now, the bit that I think everybody struggles with, inherited stuff. So, overwhelmingly, one of the biggest parts of Swedish death cleaning is thinking about not leaving that nightmare to your kids, your great niece, your partner, whatever it is, after your death. If I was to die tomorrow, and that's what I was saying right just at the beginning of this section, this isn't meant in a morbid way at all, and that's why I said if you're really sensitive about death at the moment because of a personal experience in your life, it's not for you, because I'm just going to talk about it very openly. If I was to die tomorrow, what's going to happen to all this? So my will is in place, and my executors would come in and be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with all this fabric? So much fabric. Where'd you get rid of fabric? All these books. And they'll think, oh, I know there some of these books are valuable. What did she say we're supposed to do with it all? So with Swedish Death Cleaning, the individual deals with stuff before they die. And it's not about cleaning out your entire house and just living with one frock and one sofa and one pan and one plate for the rest of your life. Of course not. But it is about thinking in terms of the extraneous stuff, the clobber, the clutter. And for those people who are thinking, you know, when I die, I'll leave all this to my kids and they'll love it. They'll be so grateful. You know, they'll get the bureau and they'll get this beautiful vintage bed frame, What if they don't want it? So back to the beginning of this video, and I was saying about having that awkward, it might be awkward in your family, that awkward conversation about let's stop gifting because we're all giving each other tat that we don't want and need, and it's all going in the bin, frankly. Although you might not say that. That might be a bit too far to say that. But yeah, the other conversation that might be a bit awkward, but I think is so well worth having, and it's very much at the centre of Swedish Death Cleaning, is to have those open conversations with your kids, grandkids. It might be nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews if you don't have children. It might be friends, to say, look, when I die, I was thinking of leaving you this bureau when I die. Is that something you would like? Because if not, you know, please tell me and I won't lumber you with it. If you think your dining table and chair set is just the most beautiful antique, it's not really an antique, it's just the most beautiful thing in the world, and that your kids are going to be so grateful when you die that they get the dining table. Imagine then you do die, your kids get the dining table and they go, oh, we hate it, can't stand this dining table, it's such old-fashioned design, I really don't like it, what am I going to do with it? Oh, I can't get rid of it because Mum left it to us in her will, and if we get rid of it we're throwing Mum away, but I hate it, and now I'm going to have to throw away my own dining table which I love to make room for Mum's which I hate. Let's not do that to our family. Let's not lumber them with stuff that they hate. With that dining table, you might be moving house, you might be downsizing as you're getting older. Have the conversation with your, let's say in this case, your daughter, and say, I'm planning to leave the dining table to you. I want to talk to you about it today because if you don't want it after I'm gone, I'm actually going to get rid of it now, and I'm happy to get rid of it right now. Hopefully, you're honest enough with each other for your daughter to say, you know what, that's really kind of you to think of me like that, Mum, but it's not going to fit in our apartment. That's a good one. It's not going to fit, or it's not really my style. When you have the conversation, make it really, really, really clear to the person you're talking to that you don't care whether they want it or not, that you're not going to be offended if they say no. Give them the opportunity to say no. And you can start thinning out your stuff now so that like I said, your family doesn't have to do it after you've died. And it might be that all this stuff that you think is great, but maybe it's a bit extraneous in your life right now, you find out that your kids don't want it. What about selling it right now? Sell it right now. Get it gone because you don't want it anymore either. Get it gone and then say to yourself, wow, I've raised enough money for a little holiday. Brilliant, go on a little holiday. Your kids don't need to inherit tat from you, or not tat necessarily. Your kids don't need to inherit your taste from you because your kids or friends or whatever it is may have very different taste to you. Don't impose your taste on someone by just not sorting anything in your life, dying and just dumping the entire lot on one of your kids. It's just not fair, and I think that's what it boils down to, is let's be fair to those people that we're going to leave behind when we die. Get it done now. And obviously a part of that is having a really good declutter. And what I find so lovely, and you will see it if you watch that show I was talking about, is how liberating it can be to let go of your own past. So for example, a wardrobe full of clothes that no longer fit, that maybe fit you 40 years ago. It's maybe stuff that you wore in your 20s. Why have you still got it in your cupboard now that you're in your 60s and they don't fit? Are you going to be wearing them in your 70s, in your 80s, in your 90s? No. So why are you hanging on to them? Let them go now. If they're truly, you know, special vintage gowns, you might think about selling them. But yeah, it's about that, living in the here and now, preparing for the future so that you don't dump your chaos on someone after your death, but also for yourself in the present, living in the present and enjoying the present instead of hoarding the past with you. You know, every cupboard is full of stuff from your past that's just not you anymore. Jettison it, be free yourself of that emotional baggage. Maybe you keep one or two things, maybe you photograph one or two items as a memory. Just talking about the photographs as well. I heard of a really lovely thing, I can't remember where I heard about it, but anyway, it was talking about having a dementia photo album. And I thought, what a great idea, not just for dementia. So, a nursing home photo album. I am going to be having a bit of a sort out with my photographs because none of them are in albums at the moment. And I want to put together an album that's me, pictures of me, and not in a narcissistic way. Oh, and you know, pictures of other people, family, friends and what have you. But 2 or 3 photos for each year of my life. So I don't know, 100, 150 photos in an album that go right the way through my life. So that the idea with the dementia album is that looking at those pictures can spark memories and can kind of unlock someone a bit. But I also liked the idea of it for, if I do end up in a nursing home in my really old age, show them these pictures of this wild young woman that I was, because I don't want to be treated like a little old lady, you know. I hope that I'm effing and jeffing until the day I die. The nurse is going to be like, oh, are you with Miss Sweary today? Yeah, Miss Sweary's swearing in her room. But having that kind of album, let your care workers, let your nursing staff see, look, this was me and I'm still that person inside. So please don't treat me like this fragile, sweet little old biddy, because I'm never going to be a sweet little old biddy. I'm going to be a cantankerous, pain in the backside old biddy. Anyway, yeah, get streamlining now, get giving things away now. And you know, just back to that thing about how, say, the dining table, and you want your daughter to have it. If your daughter says, you know what, Mum, brilliant, I love it, you know I love the dining table, I've always loved the dining table, yes, I'd love to have that after your death. Why wait? Give it to her now. If you've got somewhere else to eat, of course. And that's particularly true, you know, if you're downsizing. But why not start to give things to your loved ones now? A painting that you want to give to a friend, and you ask your friend, I'm going to leave this to you in my will. Do you like it? Is it a painting you like? Because if you hate the painting, I ain't going to leave it to you. And if they say, oh my goodness, I love it, I've always loved it. If it's your really good friends, you'll know if they love a particular painting or not. And if they say, yeah, I love it, say, right, you can have it now. Take it now. And enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment of actually being able to give something to your friend rather than they get it after you're dead. You won't see the joy on their face. I love the idea of having a party as well whilst we're alive. You know, most of us, there's a party after we die, isn't there? A party, you know, a do. There's a do after the funeral where everyone's standing around having a butty and a drink and remembering you and saying, oh, do you remember that Christmas when she did such and such? Maybe have the party early, maybe have it before you die, and have a great big giveaway party. So I'm not talking about a massive affair, you know, I'm talking about sort of your 4 or 5 best friends, or if it's your family, you know, it might be your sister and your 2 kids or whatever, and say, right, we're going to have a party today, way ahead of me dying, and this is what you're all getting if you want it. Yeah. Give away your stuff, have a party to celebrate it and say, right, I'm ready now for the rest of my life. I've got a nice streamlined house. You've all got the bits you want. You don't have anything that you don't want. My will, my power of attorney, it's all in place. So now I can just get on with living and having a great time. What came up from the decluttering videos, and I know it's really hard, so we'll just touch on it. I'm aware of the clock. The clock's ticking at me. I'll wrap up. But I know that one thing that seemed common in quite a few comments that folk are struggling with is the idea of you've got your deceased relative stuff in your home and you don't know how to get rid of it and you're really struggling to get rid of it. The fact that you're struggling to get rid of it should indicate to you that you kind of do want to get rid of it. You recognise that it's in the way, it's taking up too much room in your house. That's why it's so important to talk to our relatives. Do you actually want my stuff? I don't think there's any easy answer, except, as I was saying with a lass in comments the other day, that I'm sure if your mum knew what a struggle you were having, she'd probably be kicking herself that she's put you in that position, that she should have done something about it while she was alive. But I don't think any deceased relative, I don't think any of our relatives would ever want us to be feeling weighed down by their stuff. I don't think they'd want us to have this emotional struggle. I think what any of them would say is, you're being daft. Just get rid of it. If you don't like it and you're not going to use it, get rid of it, please. And that's putting it really simply and bluntly. That's what it boils down to. If you've inherited a ton of stuff that you don't like and you're not using, get rid of it, because you are not doing your deceased loved one any favours by begrudging it being in your home. You're not doing yourself any favours by not living your life. If your life is stagnating because you're dealing with someone else's life that's come into your house, you're not doing yourself any favours. Nobody wins in that scenario. So please, please, please give yourself permission to get rid of anything and everything that you don't want, you don't like, you don't need, you're never going to use. You have permission from your deceased relative as well. You have permission to get rid of it with no guilt whatsoever. Get it out of your home and start living your life again. But of course, if you want to keep a few things, of course, we've said that all along. I'm not talking about having a completely bare minimalist home. I like the bits and bobs that are around me, and I like the fact that I look there and I think that's, I see the bureau and I think of my grandparents, and in the kitchen I see Auntie Teapot on my shelves with my Kilner jars. But it's not, excuse me, what a gorgeous interruption. That was our Paul on the phone. We were having our weekly catch up and we've just nattered for a couple of hours, in which time the sun has gone in. I've got my blankie now, I'm really cold. Anyway, look, it was a timely interruption because I've been talking too long anyway. I know some people love the long ones, so hopefully you've loved it. I think I've said enough. In a nutshell, Swedish Death Cleaning is about making sure you, while you're alive, sort out the mess of your life. It might not be that messy, but you sort things out so that after your death, you're not leaving chaos for someone else to deal with. Deal with it yourself, and deal with it ASAP. Make sure your will is, everything about your will is in good order, all the right people are named, get your powers of attorneys sorted out, talk about whoever's going to execute your wishes after your death, think about passwords and things like that for your social media. Talk to your relatives now about anything that you might want to pass down the family. Do they actually want it? And if they don't, you can get rid of it now. Great. But the big thing is for those of you right now who have got a load of inherited stuff, let's keep this really simple. The loved one who left all that, they don't want you to be struggling. They don't want you to be feeling guilt. They don't want you to be having your own life weighed down by their stuff. Let it go. Let it go with no guilt. 1 or 2 special things to keep, great. But otherwise, you know what? It might even be worth considering, excuse me, have a look through everything. Choose your 1 or 2 items that you want to keep, that you're going to use, or that you're going to have out, like a picture, a piece of furniture that you can see and appreciate. And the rest of it might be worth getting a friend to come in to bag and box everything up to take it away if you really can't handle it. But yeah, let's not live our lives weighed down by an ancestor's life, and let's not feel guilt. Guilt doesn't get anyone anywhere. Free yourself up. Right, now, it's so chilly suddenly. I'm going to go and I'm going to get all of this out on the floor and start sorting. Yay, can't wait. It shouldn't take me too long, but it'll be a really pleasant task. And then later tonight, the task of sorting screws, that's going to be a really lovely meditation. I know there's going to be people out there thinking you're mad. What are you talking about? You can make anything a meditation. Slow, quiet, repetitive work, a meditation. Right, lovelies, I'm freezing. I need to go and put another layer on. So I'm going to say cheerio to you all for now. Please stay well. Look after yourselves. Let thoughts from today, permeate a little bit. No rush to do anything, but likewise, don't leave things too long. Get on with it. All right, gorgeosities. See you soon. Cheerio.